see come to fruition and get to the Eastern Conference Finals at least, if not the finals, you can't lose in the first round.
Alan, you obviously hear this every day. For those that don't know, Alan covers the Knicks day in, day out. You host a radio show in New York, so you're taking phone calls all the time. If the Knicks should get knocked out by what is a good Pistons team, what will the conversation, what will the fallout be in New York?
Yeah, first of all, Danny Green, my Long Island brother, I've known him since he's a kid.
Yeah.
You know that it's New York. That means he's already on the hot seat. Every coach in New York's on the hot seat, no matter what they do. But he just signed a 3-year extension that kicks in next year. And also just went back-to-back 50-win seasons. Mm-hmm. You know the last time that happened? 30 years ago. Pat Riley was the coach of the Knicks. So we're talking about winning that the Knicks haven't seen in a long time. He has achieved that. But I will say, if this Knicks team doesn't play up to its potential and doesn't beat a team that they should be beating in the first round of the playoffs, oh yeah, the noise, the chatter, it's all going to ratchet up, and that sort of Damocles is going to hang over his head going into next season.
That said, Danny, what do you expect in this series? Knicks-Pistons beginning tomorrow.
I expect the Knicks to get this done in about 5 games. I get them gentleman's sweep.
Knicks in 5. What about you?
Same prediction.
Gentleman's sweep.
Yes,
okay, so we'll see if they're able to get that done. Another really intriguing first-round matchup will be Milwaukee and Indiana. And the Bucks, ever since winning that championship with that superstar, the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, it has been disappointment after disappointment and what feels like a lot of weird dysfunction coming out of the franchise.
Yeah.
Alan, if this team gets knocked out by an Indiana team that went all the way to the conference final last year, will that be the last we see of Giannis in Milwaukee?
I think it's if you're the organization, not Giannis, because it's always been does Giannis want out? I think if you're the organization, it's something you have to think about and think about real hard. Here's why. He's 32 years old. He's not getting any younger. And he's got 2 years left on his deal before he has a chance to opt out. If there's ever a time to move him to get the maximum return, to get as much as you possibly can get, draft picks, all the stuff we all love to talk about, it would be now. Because the longer you wait, the lower that return price is going to be. And so there will be a lot of people that would be interested in a guy like him, no question. If you're Miami, that's the first team that should be calling. But if it does not go well, you can just start to feel that this is not working. The Lillard move did not work. Certainly hope he comes back in the playoffs, would be great. But this would be the time to have that tough conversation. And just understand, if you make a move like this, you're going right to lottery hell. Yeah.
Well, Danny, what do you think? If they get knocked out here in this first round, what do you think happens with Giannis?
I'm with Alan here. I think they have to give them the option to explore it. You know, I don't think they try to do it themselves. They ask him what he wants to do. Like said, Alan said, he's getting older. Their team is older. They're one of the oldest teams in the league, the oldest team in the Eastern Conference. So when you're not getting any younger as a group, and you got a disgruntled superstar with Giannis, and Dame has been in and out with health issues, you have to give him the option to explore what he wants to do this summer if you guys lose in the first round.
Danny, what do you expect in this first round series, Bucks and Pacers?
I actually do got them losing in the first round. I think this goes to at least 6-7 games, but I like Indiana in this first round series.
You too?
I don't. I think the Bucks can win this series. Here's why. First of all, Giannis dominant in the paint. Pacers not a good paint defense. Lillard is practicing. He's not playing in game 1, but he's practicing.
Yeah.
If they get him back, that's a lot of offense, and the Pacers are not a good defensive team.
Danny, one final word on that.
Not enough. Dame is back too late. He's going to be rusty. Bobby Portis is rusty. The chemistry is going to be off. I just don't see Milwaukee picking it up at this point in the season and trying to win a series like that.
We'll see. It all gets started tomorrow. Actually, our action begins tonight. We got the play-in rolling on tonight. We have the West game. We have the Mavs and the Grizzlies. The winner moves on into the field to play on Sunday. They will play OKC in round 1. And then, of course, all the action gets underway with round 1 tomorrow and on Sunday. Coming up here, back to the draft. Could any of this year's prospects be the NFL's next superstar? Mike T has the answers, and I think at least one of them is going to surprise you a lot. The comps are next. Unfortunately. Oh, you got to lose the, yeah, here we go. Just watch the ref.
That's not. Gonna need, gonna need a back.
We'll give you another look here.
When he gets home.
Yeah, here, we'll give you another look at this.
Why?
Oh!
I wish you would stop.
Yeah, well, just
giving us. I think we've seen enough.
No, I didn't think.
This poor guy. No, here it is again.
Yeah, I know. Just the net is wide open is the point that we're trying to make. Here's one last look at it.
All the possible outcomes that that official could have been imagining.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that was not one of them.
J-Mac,
got to wear your protective gear at all times.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm assuming that he is. He's still alive.
Yeah.
So I got to assume he had some kind of protection. Okay, on we go. 6 days to the draft. And we're going to play a game called Reminds Me Of. All right, so Tannenbaum, he scouts these guys. He does all the looking at it. He was a GM. He knows the history of the league. He knows the current players. So we're going to take some of these quarterbacks, and I'm going to ask you, who do they remind you of? Cam Ward, he's going to be the #1 pick. Who does he remind you of?
Greeny, Josh Allen. There's a ruggedness to the way Cam Ward plays that really reminds me of Josh Allen and their arm strength. And coming out, they both had similar yards per attempt and rushing yards. The athleticism of Cam Ward is very underrated, as was Josh Allen's, and Tennessee may be getting a star.
You know, Josh Allen coming out, there were so many questions about him that we remember, about the accuracy. Can it be? And, you know, Brian Daboll, I think deserves, got and deserves a lot of the credit for developing a guy who had ridiculous physical tools. Cam Ward is further along at this stage than Josh Allen was coming out of school.
Yeah, played in a more competitive environment. Josh Allen was at Wyoming, right? Like, so, yeah, there were questions, and he was a guy that wasn't, you know, he recruited out of high school and all that stuff. So, yeah, that's interesting. You know me, though. Like, I'm always... Like, no one ever compares him to Rex Grossman. Like, it's always a superstar.
Well, you're always... just hold on a minute. We got a few coming up. Maybe not Rex Grossman. But, I mean, that obviously, right, when you see a guy with that kind of size and all the rest of it, that's the prototype that comes to mind.
Absolutely. The biggest difference, you look at Josh Allen, he walks in a room, 6'4", 6'5", he is just massive. Cam Ward doesn't have that same stature, so that would be the only thing. But to your point, Mike T, when you have the fear of playing against Josh Allen because he could stand there, throw the ball 60 yards down the field, or he could scramble and make 6 guys miss on a defensive line and run for a touchdown, that's the fear that it puts on the defense that is very scary.
Maybe best put is, if this player achieves the maximum that he's capable of, that's who he becomes. Now here's the one you'll find a little more interesting. Let's get to Shedeur Sanders, the most talked about player. Who does he remind you of?
Kirk Cousins, Greeny. When you watch Shedeur play, he's extremely accurate. And look at his footwork here. Very good fundamentals. The arm strength is good, not great, but you can win a lot of games, as we've seen Kirk Cousins do, because of the accuracy, the anticipation. And by the way, this is, if you like Shedeur, Kirk Cousins' career in college, 64%. Shedeur Sanders, 71%. The critics will say, yeah, but there's a lot of checkdowns. I don't care. 71% completion is outstanding. J-Mac, you know that, whether you're in practice or not. I think that really bodes well for Shedeur.
So amongst the draft geek universe, of which I am now very much a member, the real debate is this one. If you take a quarterback in the first round and he turns into Kirk Cousins, was that a successful pick? Cousins has had a very good, remember he was a 4th-round pick.
He was.
He's had a very good career. He's obviously made an enormous amount of money. He's not a superstar player and all of that. When you draft a quarterback at number 3, if he's Kirk Cousins, was that a successful pick? At number 21, is it a successful pick? How do you evaluate that?
Yeah, I think if you're drafting at 3, you have higher hopes. If you're drafting at 3, you want a Hall of Famer, right? You want that's your goal, right? Somebody's good. So, you know, Kirk Cousins is on his 3rd team. Like, he's had a very good career. A lot of people would sign up right now for Kirk Cousins' career. But to your point, he's a 4th-round pick. I remember Mike Shanahan was the head coach of Washington when he made the pick, and I was asking him about, because they had picked RG3, they had traded up.
Right.
So, and Shanahan told me, like, we had a 2nd-round grade on him, and he's sitting there in the 4th. He compared him to Drew Brees because of the way he anticipated throws coming out. So even in Shanahan's best case scenario, this was a 2nd-round pick. So people want to talk about just Shedeur going to fall. I just really don't think people are looking at him as that top 5 talent.
So here is the argument I always make when this conversation comes up. If you're going to hold the standards, percentage of players who come into the league who wind up in the Hall of Fame, that's a ridiculously high bar to set. I would argue that with the 3rd pick in the draft, if you take a quarterback and he is a good starter for a decade, that was a successful pick. And Kirk Cousins has undoubtedly been that, which is why I keep saying, if you're the Giants and you need a quarterback, I take this guy.
And GMs get it wrong all the time.